This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Thursday, the new Friday, March 13th, and today's pod is the best one yet. This is a T-Boy.
The top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
Stocks rebounding like a young Steph Curry over there. I said Steph Curry, Jack, because it wasn't a big rebound. It was kind of a small rebound.
I think stocks rose on encouraging inflation data from the month of February.
Inflation. That's all I got to say about that. Jack, 3 stories for today's show. What do we got on the T-Boy?
For our first story, Guinness. The 266-year-old Irish beer is glowing as we enter St. Paddy's Day weekend.
The reason Guinness sales are at an all-time high? The most fun drinktivity since he got Smirnoff iced.
For our second story, we need to talk about North Korea's elite hacking team known as the Lazarus Group.
The Lazarus Group. Because that team of professional hackers just pulled off the biggest money heist in history.
And our third and final story. Hollywood is making a major pivot. They forgot to make TV for Trump's America.
Besties, the TV you watch is about to go through Ron Swancification.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
Fantastic mix of stories, Jack.
Pause the pod. We're asking for a 5-second favor.
A 5-second favor that benefits us and you. We'll explain.
Can you make sure you're following the show and auto-downloading episodes?
We repeat, following and auto-downloading. Both of those are actually huge for our business. Jack, could you sprinkle on some context, please?
The podcast industry made a technical change.
Basically, the industry messed with our download numbers, which is how podcast performance is actually measured.
So, we're asking you to help us.
Actually, we'll share some insider info because Jack and I are deep in the podcasting industry.
Apple and others turned off a feature for auto downloads of podcasts. The result is that download numbers, which determine how much we get paid, dropped for every player in podcasts.
But here's the key, besties. You can help us, and it only takes 5 seconds.
All you gotta do, make sure you follow the show and turn on auto downloads.
That's it. Like these 2 small 5-second fixes, they're gonna bring us back to where we were in the numbers before that tech tweak.
And that would be huge. So Yetis, here's the deal. If you're on Apple, go to our show page, tap the follow button on the top right, and then tap the down arrow to auto download.
5 seconds.
If you're on Spotify, go to our show page, tap the plus sign to follow, and then tap the gear button for settings and click auto download.
5 seconds.
And if you're on any other platform, just tap where it says follow or subscribe.
And then auto download.
And if you watch on YouTube, open up a podcast app on your phone, follow, and auto-subscribe.
HYHTBOY. Besties, we aren't just podcast hosts. We run this entire podcast business, and there is so much more we have planned for T-Boy and you.
Decades more T-Boy. It's our life's work, whipping up the takeaways for you every day.
So this is all we got to ask of you. Take these 5 seconds right now to follow and auto-download the show. It's the best way you can support the pod.
And it ensures you'll never miss an episode of the best one yet.
Again, you can do this faster than Jack and say Cookie Crisp. You got one in you, Jack?
Cookie Crisp.
In fact, you can do it right now while we're playing the jingle.
True. Now is the perfect time.
This is the perfect time. We're going to pause the pod, Jack.
Follow, auto-download. Let's hit our 3 stories.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in a dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your at-list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, on the eve of St. Paddy's Day, Guinness sales are on their hottest streak in a century. Sorry, make that 2 centuries.
And it's all because of a viral drinktivity known as splitting the G.
But Jack, before we tell this story to the Yetis, what do we think is the greatest real estate deal ever?
Well, for everyone who's never been to the original Guinness factory in Dublin, when Alfred Guinness opened that brewery in Ireland, he signed a 9,000-year lease. Not 9 months, 9,000 years.
Yeah, Guinness. They're sitting on a 9,000-year lease. That's right. Guinness goes back to 1759. It's actually one of the 3 oldest beer brands on planet Earth.
It's a dark, creamy, nitrogen-infused beer that looks like a confused coffee.
Yeah, Yetis, you don't drink Guinness. Guinness drinks you.
Now, alcohol sales overall in this economy are dropping, and Guinness hasn't updated their logo or their branding since Queen Victoria. And yet, despite those macro trends I just mentioned, Guinness sales, they're not just at an all-time high, they're accelerating.
Yeah, Guinness, they just had their 4th year of double-digit sales growth. Not too shabby.
Last year, Guinness sales rose by 17%, and since the pandemic, they're up 85%.
Demand for Guinness is so unquenchable, they're building a new $200 million brewery in Ireland, which I believe is a Guinness record, Jack.
I don't think they're going to get a 9,000-year lease on that one, though.
No, they're not. However, Guinness's surge has gotten so crazy that there were rumors on Wall Street last month that they're going to sell the business for $10 billion.
Diageo, the British alcohol company that owns Guinness, denies it, though. They say they're keeping Guinness in home.
But still, you can't deny those numbers. So we got curious. What is driving this latest Guinness surge after 200 years?
It's actually a drinking game, or as we call it, a drinktivity.
A drinktivity known as splitting the G. Jack, can you tell us exactly how you split the G over there?
You go up to the bartender and you ask for a full pint of Guinness. Then, in your first sip, you try to drink just the right amount of Guinness so that when you're done, the beer line under the foam perfectly strikes the middle of the G.
Yeah, basically, Guinness glasses say the word Guinness down the center, and your goal is to drink uninterruptedly until the foam is right in the center of the G.
You try to split the G.
So we have traced this term, in fact, back to Urban Dictionary in 2018. That's where it was first used.
But it went viral on TikTok and on Instagram starting in 2022.
Now, the technical term for those who have mastered splitting the G is ginfluencers.
Ginfluencers can split the G like a pro athlete.
And over the holidays, they split a lot of G's. Guinness actually suffered a shortage because everyone was doing this drinktivity together.
They had to ration kegs across British pubs to make sure everybody got a little.
But Jack, what was the biggest surprise for our buddies over at Guinness?
Women are driving this trend.
Yeah, they are.
Sales of Guinness to women in the United Kingdom are up 24% in the last year.
So it's not just Patrick McFinnigan and Mickey O'Sullivan splitting the G's with the lads over there.
Although there's going to be a lot of McFinnigans and O'Sullivans this weekend doing just that.
Kim Kardashian, Olivia Rodrigo, the Princess of Wales, all of them have been spotted recently splitting the G with the ladies.
It's Ginsanity.
It is.
After 266 years, Guinness, which has never changed, is enjoying all-time highs.
So Jack, what's the lucky takeaway for our buddies over at Guinness?
1's company, 2 is a crowd, and 3 is a profit party.
Yetis, there's actually a long history of viral drinktivities, including before social media.
Jaeger bombs and Smirnoff icing.
Classics.
Both of those drinking activities catapulted the brands and boomed sales.
But the underlying theme shared by all these drinktivities is actually that they created a group act.
You're not splitting the G on your own in your apartment. And you're not Smirnoff icing yourself.
Hopefully not. And this is a reminder how groups who share a product or an experience amplify its impact.
If your product simply becomes popular, that's good. But if the product becomes popular, especially with groups, that's great.
Besties, sometimes a brand can create that. Sometimes it just happens organically. But either way,
1's a company, 2's a crowd, and 3 is a profit party.
For our second story, we just saw the biggest money heist in history, and this was a Bitcoin heist.
This story shines light on North Korea's one successful industry: professional cybercrime.
Yetis, Jack and I have been looking at the numbers and also our portfolios, and like all other risky investments, Bitcoin has lost its Trump bump.
The price of Bitcoin is down to $83,000 as of this recording, which is down 25% from its all-time high.
Yeah, it's now in a Trump slump. Ben, the Bitcoin, he got pretty bruised this week.
And one reason for Bitcoin's decline in particular is the biggest theft of all time. $1.5 billion of crypto was stolen last month.
We're talking about the world's number 2 largest crypto exchange, Bybit, which was, what were they doing exactly when the whole theft went down, Jack?
Bybit, which is huge in the rest of the world, but actually isn't active in the United States, they were just moving money from one of their accounts to another account.
Okay, but then the hackers did something pretty sneaky.
They secretly changed the address that the money was being sent to.
Yeah.
Minutes later, the CFO called the CEO, said they'd been hacked, and that $1.5 billion he just wired, is gone.
Jack, I believe Butch Cassidy called this the old switcheroo.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
And the result was the biggest theft in the history of money.
We repeat, there's never been a bank robbery or the theft of goods as big as this. $1.5 billion was stolen.
You know, you're thinking Batman, The Dark Knight. Nope, the Joker didn't even steal this much fictional money in that movie.
Exactly. Now, Bybit did manage to borrow money from banks and from peer companies to remain solvent, so they have survived this blow.
And this company has put a bounty out on the thieves who stole their crypto like they were Bonnie and Clyde.
But good luck finding them, because according to the FBI, all of the hackers who stole Bybit's money, they're in North Korea.
North Korean hackers who are protected and probably hailed as national heroes because they are part of a secret North Korean group.
First, I want to sprinkle on some context. North Korea is one of the last command economies in the world.
And Jack, how exactly would we describe a command economy over there?
China used to be one, but they're not anymore. A command economy is when the government decides all industry, not market forces.
As a result of being a command economy, North Korea produces nothing the rest of the world wants. And as a result of that, North Korea is living, sadly, in terrible poverty.
Without funding from China, North Korea would collapse. But North Korea does excel at one thing.
And that thing is cybercrime. In fact, cybercrime is arguably, and we're going to argue it here, North Korea's greatest industry.
Here's the deal. If Canada scouts its young people for hockey talent, North Korea scouts their young people for hacking talent.
In fact, for the last 15 years, North Korea has put its top hackers into one secret organized criminal group called Lazarus.
Lazarus is best in the world at stealing money from foreign organizations by hacking and then giving that money to the government.
And the government then uses that money to fund North Korea's nuclear missile program.
So Lazarus and their crypto that they just hacked last month, that became North Korea's government revenue.
Yeah, what we're saying here is that Lazarus is kind of like the external IRS for the country of North Korea.
Now, China and Russia are both very good at hacking and hack the United States all the time. But North Korea, especially pound for pound, is the number one hacker in the world.
Yeah, as a percentage of GDP, North Korea, they're beating the rest of the world at the hacking.
They're already a global pariah. They don't care about the reputational hit of being a cybercrime state.
They're the best of the worst. North Korea denies it, but we're going to trust the FBI's evidence on this one. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies watching the biggest heist in history?
Crypto cannot reach its full potential until it tames the Wild West.
Yetis, it is telling that the biggest bank theft of all time didn't happen in a bank. It happened in crypto.
Real banks have security measures in place to prevent or limit this kind of thing.
Today, the crypto community is glad that the new administration is regulation light.
But Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud and Bybit's hacking show that regulation can be too light.
Yeah, get this. On word of Bybit's record-setting hack, half of their customers withdrew all of their money.
That is an awful sign for the industry, and they need to fix it.
On the other hand, banks have incredibly strict rules that you must follow to protect customer money. Crypto simply doesn't.
Some rules and regulation could actually help crypto, not just hold it back.
Take it from a couple guys who do own crypto. The industry needs to tame the Wild West. Hey Yetis, if you're a bestie, take a sec and hit that subscribe button.
And like this video while you're at it. If you leave a comment, by the way, we'll read it.
For our third and final story, the election was a wake-up call for Hollywood. They've been underserving 150 million people.
So instead of programming for Emmy Awards, executives are now programming for conservatives.
Yetis, in recent years, the top shows on TV, they cater to, honestly, coastal elites.
Because that's who makes TV shows. Coastal elites.
We can tell you what was on the pitch decks for each of these shows. You ready? Succession, it was for MBAs. The Crown, it was for Blue Bloods. Shogun, Jack, who was Shogun for?
Shogun was for foreign language film buffs who go to Dunkin' Donuts and ask for a croissant.
Yeah, not our buddy Timmy, by the way.
Ted Lasso has so many inclusive plot points. Great show. Might have a case of too many men on the field.
Now, each of those shows was popular with the Hollywood producers themselves.
And people like the Hollywood producers.
But the problem here was that there was a bigger audience out there.
The series finale of Succession, one of the greatest shows in Emmy Awards history, got 4 million viewers from those coastal elite types we just told you about.
Looks like a pretty big success right there.
But Yellowstone, a show popular with Middle America, got 10 million viewers per episode.
More people have seen Kevin Costner pee off a horse than have watched a single episode of Severance.
So Hollywood, by and large, is left-leaning. The election was a wake-up call for their content.
Art needs to imitate life. That's what Hollywood's now thinking.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Hollywood is making a Trump pivot. They're tailoring television programming for the rest of America.
Or as Jack and I would describe this phenomenon, Ron Swancification.
Let's bring it back to the summer of 2020. After George Floyd's murder, A&E canceled their live police department show that was all about cops.
But this January, A&E brought back the cops with a new cop show. They just replaced it.
A&E also is bringing back Duck Dynasty, which was huge in the early 2010s.
Even though New Yorkers aren't shooting ducks over in Central Park.
And Netflix just announced yesterday they signed a deal with a comedian who spoke at all the Trump rallies.
And it's not just Netflix, because Amazon Prime also just added The Apprentice.
And Nick, what's Disney's top show right now?
It actually stars Tim Allen, who plays a loving dad who causes his daughter to cringe by dropping politically incorrect one-liners about her school.
Big news, we are changing the school mascot. The Minuteman was not very inclusive.
What's more inclusive than a dude wearing a wig, stockings, little high heels, holding onto a rifle?
That kind of comedy is getting 10 million viewers per episode on ABC and Hulu.
Jack, could you sprinkle on a little more context to 10 million viewers, please?
Not only is that more than the season finale of Succession, that's as much as Game of Thrones, HBO's best show of all time.
Hollywood's wake-up call isn't just that they've been ignoring a big chunk of the country when it comes to programming.
It's that chunk of the country they've been ignoring is huge.
Huge!
They've been missing out on 150 million TV-watching Americans.
And that's why they're now programming red meat for the red states. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies Ron Swancifying over in Hollywood?
Rule number 1 of business: don't tell potential customers that they're wrong.
Hey, Yetis, there's actually an interesting lesson here about how to interact with customers that we've learned from Google Maps.
Google Maps. If you ignore Google Maps directions, they don't tell you you're wrong and to turn around.
Yeah, you're going to notice this now. Google Maps just reroutes you. Instead of taking a U-turn, they just tell you to take the next turn.
Google Maps does not correct its customers when they've made a mistake. And that's a broader business lesson.
It's a lesson that Hollywood is taking right now. They're not going to tell their viewers to adapt to Hollywood's very own favorite content.
They're not telling viewers this is how the White House should be by showing them West Wing.
Instead, Hollywood is now adapting to its viewers' preferences.
And that's a top rule in business. Don't tell potential customers that they're wrong.
Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for the new Friday?
Guinness sales are at all-time highs, as splitting the G is the latest viral drinktivity.
1's company, 2's a crowd, and 3's a profit party.
For our second story, Bybit lost $1.5 billion in crypto after it was hacked by North Korea's Lazarus Group.
Crypto, it won't reach its full potential until it tames the Wild West.
And our third and final story. The election was a wake-up call for Hollywood, who is now serving red meat to red states.
Rule number 1 of business: don't tell potential customers that they're wrong.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, we got an update on the celebrity of economic reports. Inflation slowed last month for the first time since September.
Prices in February across the country were up 2.8% from the year before.
Now, food prices were flat despite the eggflation situation. Egg prices are up 59% from last year.
The real test will be March and onward as Trump's tariffs begin showing up in the numbers.
Speaking of which, second, we have WTF, which stands for Whiplash Tariff Forecast of the day. Our daily update on what's happening with tariffs.
Yesterday, Europe and Canada both retaliated to the Trump steel tariffs that were imposed also on Wednesday.
Yeah, Europe's now targeting American whiskey and motorcycles with 50% tariffs.
And Canada is targeting made in USA stuff with a 25% tariff of their own.
And finally, TikTok just introduced a new feature to annoy teens off the app after 10 p.m.
After 10 p.m., if you're a teen using TikTok, your screen is going to be taken over with calming meditation music, and they're going to urge you to put your phone.
Yeah, and if you stay on TikTok, another musical takeover happens, which is like a lot harder to ignore.
And then if you stay on TikTok again, I think the app's just going to slap you. and say, go to bed.
New feature. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by Maria Crevici from Massapequa, Long Island.
Until this year, the largest wine cellar in the world was Costco.
And the most successful label of wines was Kirkland.
That's right. Kirkland Cabernet was outselling the rest of the world's finest wines.
Now, we should point out this year, Total Wine & More has displaced Costco as the #1 world wine seller.
Total Wine & More, which is apparently the Costco of just alcohol.
But still, Kirkland branded Costco wine is the top seller in the vast majority of wine categories. Jack, wine salesman of the month over here, what would you say about this Kirkland Cabernet?
Hold on. I need to keep wafting. I'd say it's the best idea yet. Yetis, we actually just dropped an entire episode on the untold origin story of Costco's Kirkland brand.
It's all on our weekly show, The Best Idea Yet. You gotta listen to it. If you're going to Costco this weekend, you're doing a Costco run, put on this episode in your car.
We got a link in the episode description. The show is called The Best Idea Yet.
Yetis, you look fantastic today, Jack. Oh, Jack, check your ankle.
What am I looking at?
Smirnoff iced you over there. Oh, you gotta finish it now. Oh, you gotta finish it before we do the credits.
You gotta get down on one knee, right?
You do. Besties, we love potting with you. And remember, the 5 seconds we would love you to pull off right now.
Follow the show and click auto download. It would mean the world to us.
And it's the best thing you can do for our business.
Nick and I will be back tomorrow, as usual, with the best one yet.
Can't wait. And before we go, a happy birthday to Yeti Sophie West over in Boston, just outside Boston, a marathoner and a commercial real estate agent of the stars.
Happy birthday to James from San Jose, California, a first-time dad with a 4-month-old baby girl.
And Becky Crystal down in Cleveland, the Paris on the Lake, is a puzzle queen and a J. Crew deal finder with a birthday to celebrate.
And a big shout out to all the Detroit Yetis out there. It's 313 Day.
Yeah, if you know. You know. And Sherry Morris is a legendary power engager on Instagram. Sherry, we just want to say thanks for being a legendary Yeti.
And to anyone else celebrating something today, make it a T-boy.
Celebrate the wins.
This is Jack. I own stock of Amazon, Disney, and Netflix. Nick and I both own stock of Apple and Spotify, and we both own some Bitcoin.
Name Ben.